In Matthew 11:29, Jesus offers a comforting and reassuring statement, saying, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Let's look at 4 different points that can peel back some more meaning behind Jesus' claim that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. Point number 1, invitation to learn from Jesus. In the cultural context of the time, a rabbi's yoke represented more than a mere set of teachings. It constituted a thorough framework guiding followers in living out their faith. This yoke was similar to a wooden beam on an ox, and it was a metaphorical guide for how individuals should navigate their life. Jesus, as our esteemed rabbi, presented a yoke that is liberating and life-giving, offering a refreshing departure from oppressive religious norms. Jesus' message serves as a transforming guide, not imposing a heavy load of rules, but rather pointing to a way of life infused with purpose, meaning, and an intimate connection with God. His yoke, in this understanding, calls us not just to adopt a set of doctrines, but to embody an overcoming way of living that aligns with the heart of God's intentions for his people. So point 2, gentleness and humility. Jesus describes himself as gentle and lowly in heart. This reveals the nature of his teachings and the character of the one offering the yoke. His teachings are not harsh demands, but rather rooted in love, compassion, and humility, making the burden light. The perception of Jesus as gentle in heart would have conveyed a sense of approachability. This quality would have made him more relatable to ordinary people, which would have been both comforting and appealing to those who are weary of oppressive religious structures. So point 3, rest for the soul. The promise of finding rest for our souls is a key aspect of Jesus' message. His yoke is easy because it leads to a deep and satisfying rest, a rest from the heavy burden of sin, striving, and the world's demands. The prevailing religious atmosphere would have fostered a sense of guilt and condemnation due to the inability to meet certain strict requirements. His yoke was light because it released people from the heavy burden of trying to earn God's approval through their own works. The religious elite of the time were sometimes accused of hypocrisy, the Pharisees burdening others with expectations they themselves did not fully meet. Jesus, in contrast, lived out the principles that he taught. His yoke was light because it reflected authenticity and integrity, providing a trustworthy guide for those seeking a genuine connection with God. Point 4, application in daily life. The invitation to take Jesus' yoke is an ongoing call for us believers today. It means aligning our lives with his teachings, relying on his strength, and finding joy in the journey, knowing that he is always with us. Jesus' yoke is easy and his burdens are light when we trust in him and walk in the freedom of his grace. Believers might interpret taking up Jesus' yoke in different ways. Some might think of taking up Jesus' yoke as trusting and finding peace in him. Others might see it as a way of deeply knowing that they are saved, that they are free. For some, it might mean getting closer to God, which could involve talking to him through prayer and reading the Bible, being part of church, and just walking with him in daily life. Jesus' yoke is adorned with the fruits of the Spirit, allowing his grace to illuminate areas that need to depart from our lives. By inviting the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, we align ourselves with his teachings. Living in accordance with these fruits, empowered by grace, brings about a sense of lightness and an ease in our journey. We can conclude in Matthew 11:29 that Jesus extends a gracious invitation to all who are weary and burdened, promising an easy yoke and a light burden. As we take his teachings to heart and we embrace his gentleness and his humility through grace and find rest for our souls, we discover the transforming power of life lived in relationship with him. Jesus' yoke is a path to freedom, joy, and fulfillment for our deepest inner needs.